Oh hey, it's Wes, and today we've got to go a little bit wider than usual, and I'm not joking about you. Today we're looking at the Glow Quick Open Softbox. Now this isn't the usual kind of softbox that we look at, not the old pop it open or rod in center diameter softbox. This is a little bit different. This is a big 70-inch parabolic softbox, and not the new mamby-pamby sort of parabolic softboxes. This is the old style rod in center softbox. So let's see what we've got here. We open up the kit here, and we have this strange reflective package, which I honestly don't know what it's for. It's a padded package that contains your adjustable center rod. No, it's not a fencing saber. Aside from that, I feel like it should be for something because it's reflective. I don't know. And this is your center rod, which packs up in reverse, but actually works in this direction. And as you can see on the end here, we have a Bowens mount to mount your light on. Softbox itself, interestingly enough, comes with a sandbag. Now, I haven't put any sand in this because I already have some filled sandbags, so I'm just leaving this as is. Which leaves us with the softbox itself. And here is where we introduce the first kind of tricky part of this venture. I did do a photo shoot with this, a rather long photo shoot, and I found it a little bit tricky to get this open. Let's get a little closer here so you can see what's going on. Each arm has a switch at the top, a rubberized section here that lets you get a good grip, and each one has to be cranked up to get into place. Now, what I noticed while using this is essentially you have to wrench on each of these arms as though you're planning on snapping it clean off. You've really got to give it the business for it to pop up. It's not super easy though. And once you get all the way around the softbox, the tension does increase. If anybody knows a trick for opening these, please let me know down in the comments. So I had already practiced this a little bit before my photo shoot, but I did notice it was pretty difficult to do. And so I asked my model for the shoot, and she's not a weak lady, to see if she could get these last rods into place. I even gave her some instructions, and she was completely incapable of latching those last rods into place. So for me, even if I can get a box set up, a lot of photographers are not me. A lot of photographers are skinnier people or smaller people than me who find it utterly impossible to do things that are this strength intensive. So yes, it's quicker than the rod in circle design, but I don't know if it's quick enough. It still takes a lot of effort to snap those open. Now, in one of my last videos where I was looking at another Glow softbox that, again, was very large and is more difficult because of its size, some people said, oh hey, I have no difficulty opening this. One of those guys was essentially built like a linebacker. Most photographers are not built like linebackers. Most photographers are fairly regular, everyday people. All right, so let's get this going and stop whining, Wes. All right, so I've got this mounted, a nice big heavy C-stand. You definitely don't want to put this light on anything even remotely untrustworthy. And in addition to that, although there's a Bowens mount in the front here, let's open her up, or there will be once I put the rod in. I don't recommend mounting a full-size bow and flash on this. What do I mean by that? Well, you saw earlier I have an 8600 Pro underneath here, but I have it mounted to a Manfrotto super clamp. If you don't have a Manfrotto super clamp, get one. Super useful for lots of different things. All right, let's put this rod in. The rod goes in from behind, and then the other side pops on the front here. Tighten that down. There we go. Let's get a closer look for all the kids at home. So there you have that mounted on there, connected, come through the back, and then there is a pole mount coming through the bottom here. We'll use that for something other than pole though. In the back here, we have where the rod comes out. Allows you to remember some set points on that. And then as we go down, here we have an 8600 Pro on a Manfrotto super clamp, using the 8600 extension head, which is the H600P. So our first step here is going to be jamming this through the hole in the softbox. So I'm going to open it up. We'll open that Velcro. It doesn't look like it would necessarily fit, but it does. And then there we have it. Got the H600P mounted on the end of the pole. Now in this particular circumstance, we don't have a huge need for a counterweight. I'd actually tried it with the 8600 in there, and I did it with FV150 SL150 Mark II, as you can see in this video here. And that was scary. You need a lot of counterweight to keep it going, and it's kind of terrifying that way. But it is strong enough to accommodate that. Now, I did say you don't need a counterweight. It's still a good idea to have one. Balance it all out here. There we go. Got my sandbag. Sandbag. Okay. So now we've got the H600P in there, and we get to talk about what's the big deal with this big light modifier. So inside here, we have the LED turned on our 8600 extension head so that we can see what's happening. So we have a huge light modifier, but just a little bit of light in the middle. What's the point of that? Well, the idea behind this is that, if you didn't know this already, a parabolic reflector allows you to focus your light. Now, I don't want to go too far with talking about focusing light, because there is a huge misunderstanding at play here in the photography community. And it is highly controversial, but I'm going to take a controversial hot take on this. The light, after it leaves your diffusion panel, is always the same. What matters is the shape of the light on the diffusion panel. If your diffusion panel is acting as a diffusion panel, it's just going to emit diffused light. But what matters is the shape of that light, because as you're probably aware, a ring light or a beauty dish or a double diffused softbox can all have different effects on your light. You have wide lights or lights with a gap in the middle that can reduce hot spotting. That's totally a thing. The fall-off effect from whether or not your light is focused from a softbox, not really a thing. If you have a diffuser on here, for the most part, the light's going everywhere. But the source and size and shape of the light, that is important. So let's see what we can do. So it's 0 centimeter extension with the post all the way back in with the light right at the back of the softbox. You get kind of a strange shape. I assume it actually has more to do with the shape of the bulb in the flash. I'm not sure though. Kind of a UFO. Don't use that. 5 centimeter extension. You get mostly just a hot spot in the middle, and that kind of continues straight out past 15 and even through to 20 centimeters. you still have a pretty tight pattern. But then once you get to 25 centimeters in, so basically the flash head is about halfway through the middle of this parabolic softbox, it starts to spread out. It's still very much hot in the middle with a soft spread. And then once you get to 30 down to 35 centimeters, it's getting a lot softer in the middle. The pattern doesn't look that different, but if you look closely, the light in the middle is dimmer and the light around the edges is brighter. And it's actually creating kind of a spoke design, which I noticed in the eye of the model during the photo shoot as well. And then once you get all the way out, the maximum marking on the bar is 40 centimeters on this. It starts to look pretty uniform, but still it's looking pretty hot in the middle, so unlike a double diffuse softbox, which is very uniform, this one still stays pretty hot in the middle. At 45 centimeters, which is 5 centimeters past the actual marking points on the bar, we're actually pressing against the front diffusion fabric, and you can see a little dark spot on there from the back of the flash head. And I know you're not supposed to go that far, but honestly, it gives the most uniform light pattern on this. And there you go. So as you can see in those pictures, the light is bigger when it's further out, and it's smaller when it's further in. So that's our advantage with this light modifier. You can have one light in your studio, assuming you have a big studio. This is a little bit too big for my studio space, unfortunately. Assuming you have a big studio, you can use one light to create a small light or a big light. If you haven't been doing photography for a long time, you might think to yourself, well, hold on. Why would I buy a big light? And with a big light, I've already made it. Because, you know, the bigger the light source, the softer the light. Soft light isn't always what you want. Soft light can be the most flattering. But if you harness the shadows and angle things just right, a hard light can still look good. Especially if you're good at retouching and your model has good skin. So, by using this, you get to have one light modifier that you can switch around and differ in size depending on the kind of look that you're going for. So that's great. But the big downside of this particular size is it's always going to be this big. And if you're going on location, it's always going to be a pain in the butt to set up. What else could we do? Let's have a look here. So you saw that big bag, that big light modifier before. Your other option is something like this. This is the Westcott 7-foot umbrella. So let's see what we can do with this. In this one, we apply the light modifier directly to the C-stand. Just bring it out a little bit. And I don't have to fish anything through here. A little bit easier to expand, but that's just my opinion. Okay, let's turn this on. Turn this back down again so that we can see what's going on. Now, once again, keep in mind that our light is a little more focused here than it would be if we were using the flash. So with this umbrella, you can get a silver version of this that amplifies this effect as well. You can pull it out or back in. Changes your focus just a little bit, but honestly not that much. So with this umbrella, it's kind of what you see is what you get. It's not deep enough this away to really do much parabolic focusing. It's pretty shallow, so that has its ups and downs. The upside, obviously, this is super cheap, super lightweight, travels well, and is really easy to set up. What's the downside? You can't focus it. Comparatively, this is way flimsier. Well, you could use this if it was raining to keep the rain from going on your head, except you would immediately fly away. So that's your option for light modifier that is that big? Do you go umbrella or do you go parabolic? Honestly, it has more to do with you and your photography and how you do your setup. With this one, 7-foot light's a 7-foot light. With this one, it's versatile, but boy is it huge and tricky to use. For the most part, I don't have a great conclusion for you. What I want to know is what you think down in the comments below. Let me know what you would use, all things being equal. In case you missed it, normally we do ratings, so let's go through the ratings real quick. Build quality for this, super solid. The rods are very thick. This part back here that really matters. This is all metal, super heavy duty. Build quality is a 9 out of 10 for this thing. The rods bend a little bit more than I'd like, and you feel like you have to break it to get it into position, but I don't think it's gonna break. Light quality, all depends on what you want, but for the most part, my only issue with it is you can't get it diffused quite enough for my liking. And so I'm only gonna give it a 9 out of 10 for light quality. It's a big light, but it can't get as big as you might think. Usability, that's a tough one for me. It really depends on the size of your studio and your use case, but I can't give it any more than a 6 out of 10. Value, that's where things get interesting, and that's why I brought this in here. This Westcott umbrella with the diffuser is $126, and it's a big light for cheap. If you're looking for a big light, I really recommend trying out one of these because you don't have a lot to lose, they're really cheap. But if you want something heavy duty and versatile, with this quick open, it's $420 for the 70-inch. There are smaller sizes, of course. That sounds like a lot compared to this, but bear with me. In the world of large parabolic reflectors, softboxes, this is cheap. Let's compare it to what else we have there. There's the Elinchrom 190 centimeter, $1,300. SMDV Mega Deep, $1,100. Hansel Grand, $1,600. So the bar is pretty high for price here. Now you can get really big softboxes, but not quite this big. You can get stuff like the Photo Diox Easy Pro for $160, or even the Godox 47-inch for $100. It's a pretty cheap design, not nearly as big. The bigger you go, the price kind of rises exponentially because it's harder to make. And then there is, I think it's fairly new, the Westcott Zeppelin 60-inch. So it's just a little bit smaller than this effectively. And it has that true parabolic shape as well. $750 though. It costs more than this, and it's a lot less of a reflector. Some might say it's easy to use though. So in conclusion, that gives me a total of 30 out of 40. It's actually a reasonably strong score. So again, I don't really want to have a strong opinion on this because I don't think that this is the softbox for me. If you think that this is the softbox for you, however, let me know your use case, let me know how this makes sense for you. If I had a big studio, not just a very large in-home studio, because this is big for an in-home studio, this would be ideal. You leave it set up, you customize it as needed. But as it stands in my space, it's a bit big, and since I do a lot of on-location shoots, it doesn't travel well. You do not want to set this up in the wind. If you have any more questions about this or comments, again, let me know down in the description. If you want to buy either of these softboxes, I've got links down in the description. So until next time, pet a cat and go take some photos.